Yes, here we go. It's time for the T.N.F. It's the night we hand over the keys to use, and you can get as many of your points in as possible using the hashtag T.N.F, as always on a Thursday. Joined by the Judge. How are you, Judge?
I'm doing very well, mate. Yourself? How's things?
Yeah, all good, mate. Another fantastic Celtic zipper on there for the big man. I like it. I like it. Right, do all that good stuff before we get going. Remember, all that good stuff means give us a like, give us a share, buy some hair, all that, carry on. Remember to hit the subscribe button if you've not already. Subscribe numbers are going up quite a lot, quite quickly right now, which is great to see. Viewing numbers are doing really well. I don't get all caught up in that. I know a lot of folk saw they post about on their channels, you know, the view count and how many new members, but we just kind of coast along doing what we do. But of course, if you are a subscriber, hit that bell and it means you never miss a bus. Unless you want to, of course, miss as many buses as possible, which might be the case. I understand that. If you want to become a Voice of Us member, like so many of you have in the chat, it's $1.99 a month. It just helps keep the wheels on the road. The likes of Alan Mokwa, Martin K, Jim C, Joe Henry, Alex Forsyth, John Ford, Pete McLaughlin. There we go. That was a good run into there. That was a good run. Right, okay. What to get through? We didn't do a PMP last night, so we will talk about the game first. But we've not had the judges' thoughts yet on the window of underwhelming, if you want to describe it as that, or the window as expected, maybe in the judges' case. But we'll cover all that. So we'll get into the game, Mark. I'm guessing you were at it. As fine a performance as we could have we've seen from Celtic, I think at home, I think that was right up there. But in terms of the backdrop and the context of the game, it was one of those ones where it doesn't go our way. I expect it to go our way, but just say something. Something goes, wrong. I think the focus would have sharpened very quickly. I think the attitude, I think the stadium vibe would have turned very quickly. What Brendan is brilliant at is managing football teams, and particularly our one. And what he's done is put outside, he's put on a 5-star display with 6 goals to nil against Dundee. Incidentally, Dundee's second 6-0 defeat in a row, which is mind-boggling considering they took 3 off us only a couple of weeks ago. And I think they took points off Rangers as well. I'm not sure if they beat them or drew with them. I can't remember. But we were all kind of praising their work, thinking they look a good outfit. They've had a shocker of a couple of weeks. But to be honest, it could have been Dundee. It could have been Dundee United. It could have been Hearts, Hibs, maybe even Rangers. When we play like that, we're putting any team in Scotland to the sword. Loads of notable mentions in the game, Mark. Obviously, the return of Jota, him getting a start, another assist. I read somewhere today that's as many goal contributions as Yang has managed this season in 20 games. He's now matched it already, Jota, in 87 minutes of football, which doesn't really surprise us on the bus. Dyson Maeda showing, who needs a striker? Shut up, Boise. Don't need a striker. Just put me up there. And he starts not just headering them like Larson, as Rodgers alluded to. He's now dinking them, mate. First time that the King would have been proud of. Arnie Ingles with an assist and a goal. Loads of notable mentions. Did you enjoy the fare that was served up last night?
Okay, it was a great result for Celtic. I thought the performance for the first minute to the last was what we needed. I think the stadium could have turned last night. You're right, if we'd lost a goal or started off sluggish. But for the very first minute, the team just looked on it. I think Jota gives you that, it gives you that cutting edge. You know what I mean? It gives you that wee extra spring in your step. And the fans were on their feet the full match. Every time Jota had the ball, he was flicking and tricking. He was step overs, etc. But there's like trick ponies like Eddie McGady, somebody who just done the odd trick for the sake of it with the end product. Jota seems to be somebody who's got end product and tends to do, like the first goal, for instance, Maeda's first goal, like he was swinging his legs all over the place, you know what I mean? And then that cross came over and it was perfectly timed run from Maeda as well. And the ball, it was brilliant, don't get me wrong, but I think that's the end product we've been missing for a lot of our wingers recently, you know what I mean? Like this style and substance for Jota. And I must admit, I'm still preparing to give the guy time because he's missed a lot of football. So I think adrenaline's probably got him through the last couple of games, and I'm off for the fact that he might drop off for a wee while. That's fine. I'm fine with that. If he doesn't, great. But I thought last night he was probably. I thought Maeda was fucking world class and all. Like, I think you can replace Maeda's footballing abilities not too hard, but he's his endeavour, his drive, everything about him, I think he's unique. I don't think there's a player I've ever seen that can run like that in the 96th minute without even one bead of sweat. And I thought the full team last night was really good to watch, really exciting stuff to watch. Trusty had a few moments in the first half. We're going to have to we're going to have to maybe bide our time with Trusty as well. Maybe we're going to have to accept that he is a bit like Boyata. He will give you a heart attack every now and again, but that's kind of the trade-off you get if you want maybe a player that's maybe got a higher ceiling than Scales, if no got better ability just now. I think he keeps the ball. I think Scales keeps the ball at the net better than Trusty, but maybe Trusty's got a higher ceiling to go to.
I think it's a great way of putting it.
But I thought last night, boys, I thought I don't think Dundee played that bad. I'm not going to lie. I thought Dundee were actually no too bad. Their game plan was obvious, but they weren't bad at their game plan. Celtic just turned up, and when Celtic turned up, unfortunately for some teams, especially at home, and then again we had to have penalty kick, and it's a bad start for them. But when Celtic turn up at Celtic Park under the lights, there's not many teams in Scotland I think they can live. Probably there's no teams in Scotland they can live with. And Jota has. I think last night was needed. I think the Celtic fans. I thought the atmosphere for the first 5-10 minutes was a wee bit. Don't know, it was a bit weird. I think the fans were a bit fed up. But I think the performance last night, you left the stadium last night with maybe a wee bit of reflection that you didn't have on transfer deadline morning or the day after. Still with the same questions, still with the same answers as well as the same questions, but a wee teensy wee bit more, you know, reality that when we turn it on, nobody can match us. And if Celtic do the things that Celtic should be doing on the park, we can wait till summertime for new players, but we'll get into the transfer window. But I thought last night was just a recipe to get the Celtic fans over, which has been, in my opinion, a tough couple of days.
Yeah, I think, as I said at the top of the show, I think it was all laid out for absolute, Sharkgate number 2, Mark. That was laid on a plate. The pressure was on Celtic last night and on the manager to deliver last night, because the outcome would have been, obviously, you've not restored the league because it was a game in hand. So I always think the optics of that aren't great when it's the game in hand if you don't overcome it. Do you know what I mean? And get your 3 point, whatever the cushion may be, whether it's 10 points, whether it's a 2 point gap, and get it back to 5. I always think it looks a wee bit more dramatic as well. It's always dramatic with Celtic drop points, but you know where I'm coming from. It can look right bad if you've not capitalised, as it were, in your game in hand. But then that aside, of course, the backdrop of the rest, you're absolutely right to bring that up, because that fundamentally would have all came to the fore. And I think that would have affected the players had we went, say, a goal down or something like that. I think the atmosphere, if you're saying the first 5-10 minutes was strange, I think considering how we got to the game and the lead up to it, I'm probably not too surprised at that. I think it's amazing that the management and more importantly the players dodged that potential bullet by just absolutely smashing it out the park. And look, the Christmas period, Celtic went at their best, but the Christmas period is notoriously the hardest time to get points, let alone brilliant performances and great and maximum points. I think Celtic rode it out okay, bar the Ibrox game where they were just miles off it all round. I think there was a draw with Dundee United. Did we have another draw? Maybe. But I think in that time we've rode it out okay, and Brendan's now exact words where he wants us to put the foot to the floor in this title run. It's now time to step up again and maybe start seeing the performance levels match up with the maximum points that we're taking. I think the sprinkling of goals really, really enthuses me. And we'll get to the reasons why for that. But when we look at the actual players who've got the goals, Adam Ida, again, that's 4 and 3 for him. It's the type of goals with Maeda now. That back post, that's a diving header, in our last game as well. Then that, amazing first-time chip, which I think was the end product. Brodge ball is designed. That goal defines exactly the good and the bad of Rodgers' style of football, because that passing about there in that back corner, I can imagine, Mark, you were there, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but we'd have had to stop fucking about with it there. What are you doing? But when you move it, once you get out of that in the space, because you've beat the press, suddenly you've got the space. When Arnie Engels, for the second game in a row, very similar pass, I don't know if you thought that yourself, that curling ball, and that was very, very similar to what he played just 3-4 days ago. And then obviously you get that, a worldie finish to top it off. That's the ideological textbook Rodgers goal I think that he's wanting for the team. That's just my viewpoint on it. And obviously, it'd be a good goal scored by any team, but I think you got the best bits of it. You win the ball back in a tight area, you play through that press, you stay calm in the ball, you find your man, and then, of course, when it comes to a bit of quality, you be aggressive with it. And in terms of Arnie Engels, I thought it was an aggressive pass that he made around the halfway line. And then with Maeda, that one touch finish, I mean, you could watch that all day. It's just, it gets better and better almost with every watch of it. I've no idea what the cat's running about that. Sorry about that. But the sprinkling of goals, we then see Jota obviously got an assist, but he'd scored in the last game at the weekend. We see Nicholas Kuhn come on. No body language expert. What did you make of his celebration? I like it because he looked like a guy, fucking man, I'm starting for. You know, that's what I do. I don't mind that, Mark. I'm all for it. I want players to be unhappy if they're not starting. And that finish he does is just anything you guys can do, I can do better. Arnie Engels one, it's a shame it took the wee slight deflection, albeit it made the hit off the underside of the bar. And I think those goals always just look a wee bit more delicious. But loads of, if you go through the scorers that got the goals, Matt, talk to me about the plus points of those individuals getting the goals and the type of goals that they did.
Well, I think he does go in particular. You know what I mean? It was, you know, his movement for that goal was unreal. You know what I mean? I don't know how much the camera picked up on it, but his movement was sublime. That actually made the goal, to be honest. And he did well to be in the right place to score the rebound. But the more goals he's getting, whether they're tap-ins or whether they're 20-yarders, a striker needs him. And I did go back to the goal we got in Europe, and it wasn't his goal, but he needed that moment. That moment was needed for his season to kick on, and he has kicked on. You can't ask for any more than 2 Champions League goals, a goal at Firth Park and a goal at Celtic Park, to follow up for that. So he's needed that, and I think that
there was some finish too.
It was a true finish. You hit the ball
Yes.
through. I mean, it's not David when you're not playing well, you miss the ones, you know what I mean? Or your confidence is low. I think maybe last month he maybe hits it at the bar, or he hits the first man, or, you know. I thought Jota was unlucky, but I thought Jota's his rebound he had it pretty sweet, but the keeper just managed to gravitate towards it pretty quickly. The penalty kick was a penalty kick. But Maeda's 2 goals, I mean, I think the diving header's probably been lost in translation last night. I mean, that was a cracking goal last night. I mean, Greg Taylor was involved again, I'm pretty sure. I think he's been playing brilliant these last 3-4 games, and he's not getting any credit, Greg Taylor. That's fine, to be honest with you. No bother. Sometimes players are, you know, they're putting a bracket, or, you know, they're put to the side and they're just never going to get any praise. I think Greg Taylor, the last few games, has been really tidy for Celtic. I thought he was really good at Firth Park as well. Him and Ralston, that's always good. And
do you think the left back hunt, the public left back hunt, that's obviously loud and clear, Celtic were in no denial thereafter they were signing Kieran Tierney. Rodgers admitted that was all done and dusted for the summer, and they'd ideally get him in January. Then obviously the fact that on the last day we bring in a left back, that tells you that area is a position they want to strengthen, Greg, or they don't feel comfortable just with you. Do you think that these rumours over the last few weeks have motivated that performance to play any sort of role? I'm not saying it, by the way, that his form is ever as far off a cliff as made out. I'm probably in agreement with you on that, Mark, right? And he is the one that people are more loath to give praise to than others. That's always going to be the way, by the way, your 11 or your pool of 18 players. There's always 1 or 2 like that. But I just wonder if off the ball, you see a guy who was greeting apparently because the stands were chanting Kieran Tierney's name, has maybe flipped that energy now into it's enhanced his game or played some sort of part in just an extra motivating factor. Do you think that is bollocks, or do you think there's a chance of that?
No, of course there is. You know, I mean, the guy's only human, boys, as well. And you can imagine being at your work and your boss is in measuring your uniform and seeing if the guy can fit into the same shirt as you. You know what I mean? You'd be wondering what's going on here. You know, I mean, and the thing about football is it's ruthless, but you're hungry to dry in public. You know what I mean? It's like things tend to happen in public in football, and there's no hiding place. That pitch might look relatively big, but I can assure you it's probably massive when you're standing there feeling like you're yourself and there's 60,000 folk waiting for you to make a mistake. I think it's probably it crushed Palmer and it crushed Mikey Johnson. I think there's players in there somewhere. Celtic players I'm not sure about, but sometimes that stadium and that pressure can just crush you. And I think Greg Taylor could have easily went down that road. He had shaky moments at Celtic recently, moments, no shaky games as such. I think he had a howler at the game had an absolute stinker. He shouldn't have played the next match, but he did. But he's having moments rather than bad games as such for the last wee while for Celtic, and so that's not to be forgot. But the guy's not churning out bad performances week after week. He's having moments that's just no up to his usual standards. But I think surely it must have affected him. His contract hanging there, he's the top of his head. His next contract is going to be for him and his family, so it's a lot of pressure for the boy. But not only that, he probably knows that for the last 3-4 weeks, if Cairney is coming in, I'm on the bench instantly, and I'm probably not going to see the pitch until he gets injured again. So he's got through this wee spell. You know what I mean? He's churned out decent performances. He played pretty well at Villa Park. I felt as well. He was pretty decent. He didn't stink the place out or anything like that. You know, the odd mistakes turns into a bad game for a player when they're chastised at Celtic. I go back to it with Alison. If he makes a bad pass that any other player makes 14 times in a match, that sums up how bad a player he must be, rather than just a bad pass individually. And I think Greg Taylor can sometimes fall into that category as well. But I thought it was important for him last night. I thought it was just a sound performer. And see, when you don't notice a fullback, normally that means they're playing well, boys. So you know what I mean? And I'm not saying Dundee had a lot of threat. I'm not saying that at all. They had a game plan. I thought they stuck to it. They were trying to win throw-ins and free kicks, and they stuck to it. Tony Dock, I think, is a great manager. I really do rate the guy. So I do trust his team were performing to the strategy in which he put out. No good enough for Celtic Park. But then again, you've got Engels. I think his penalty kick was taken well. Very true again. Both right in the back of the net. Hit the back of the net before the keeper actually touched the grass. That's a good sign of a penalty kick. If that ball's hitting the net before he lands, that's a true penalty kick. And
yeah, I always think as well, if the keeper guesses the right way but it's nowhere near it, in theory, because even by the time the keeper's actually finished his dive, he's got that post covered.
yeah,
so if you went the right way, have stretched your body out to actually cover where the balls went, you were nowhere near it. I always think that's the perfect pen,
Look,
you know.
I think if you make the keeper have to have a strong hand and get down fast, some penalty kicks you just can't avoid. But sometimes a keeper just guesses correctly, and that's it. Even if it's at the bottom corner of the net, a keeper can still save it if they're doing fast enough. But I actually mentioned the Bayer Robson penalty kick last night after we seen it. I said that's what you want to see. Just as if you don't need to pick the right spot. If you hit it hard enough, the goalkeeper is still going to make a save. I've seen ones where the keeper just picks the ball up. You know what I mean? And I think they're pathetic. Last night was a cracking penalty. And then his second one, it's very strange. That happened right in front of me, and I just waiting for the ball to get it back because it took about 2 seconds for folk to cheer. I was like, was that a goal? It just thought the ball went really high. Then it was like Sinclair's goal against Albion Rovers at Energy Stadium. The ball went too high in the air.
They bother, Phil.
And it just went down the way, and I went, how the hell? I genuinely thought he missed it. I genuinely did. I was like, was that a goal there? And then it was a bad deflection. I think the ball was going wide, if I'm being totally honest with you. But the deflection was really good. It just beat the keeper so well. But it's a strange goal. And then you mentioned, I thought that goal, Jota, fuck me.
What a fucking ball, eh?
There's actually a cracking angle on Twitter that I seen earlier on. Somebody's took a video for behind the goals at the Lisbon line stand, and you see the full passes of play for kind of worm's eye view it, and it's great to watch. And the roar when that goal went in last night was some goal. It was just a really, in fact, 3 or 4 goals last night were just something else. But that goal and Kuhn's goal, they won player of the goal of the month every month of the year. And I just felt last night it was a cold night, but I didn't feel the cold because I was entertained. A lot of times I've sat at Celtic Park and I've been sitting there cold and it's been damp and wet. You're watching turgid football. You feel like it's a chore for you to go sometimes.
Sure.
I thought the full stadium needed that, boys. So I think we were all pissed off. But the players turned up. I think the manager is probably a bit in his teeth the last couple of days. You know what I mean? That's fine. That's great.
Well, he did a good job of that. Speaking about pissed off, just before we move on to the transfer window, etc. and Brendan's presser, which I'm keen to get your thoughts on. Just the one I touched on earlier, Nicholas Kuhn's sort of reaction.
Sorry,
I mean, let me just remind people as well, it was the 6th goal of a game, right? So it wasn't affecting outcomes or anything like that. But such a brilliant goal when you score one like that, doesn't matter how good you are, you kind of see more of an exuberant celebration just because you're fucking buzzing, you've just pulled that off. What did you make of yourself? I don't know if you've seen it back in the telly, just head down, very sort of focused, and people are jumping up, smiling. He's just sort of, that's what I fucking do, was the vibe I got off it, which I don't mind at all, by the way. It's not me trying to overanalyze it or anything. Just normally when you see goals of said quality from any player, the eyes go up and they've already started running with their hand in there because, oh, yeah, fucker, that came off. He sort of turned it. I just thought there was almost a bit of fucking wingers. I'm the top fucking winger. I don't know. That's how I sensed it, which I like.
I found it a bit Tom Rogic-esque, you know what I mean, where the guy just knows he's got ability to do that, and it's no surprise to him that he's sitting 20 yarders in the corner doing it. He's not that shocked or surprised. Do you know, my dad mentioned to me on the phone today, and then I watched the highlights when I came from work, and I went, oh, that's a bit strange, and at full time, he looked even more pissed off. He was just walking about, and I was like, is he all right? And I was just watching. I was watching and watching and watching. And I seen him having a wee carry on with, I think it was Engels. I thought, thank God, because you saw me just look. It was like he was talking to himself. And at some points, I thought, well, that's a bit strange. Do you know what? He's either been a wee bit annoyed he's been dropped, but I dare say there's been a conversation where Rodgers has said, look, I need Maida fit. He just came back for an injury not long ago.
Yep.
He's been missing games for injury, so he has to play tonight. Jota needs 90 minutes for the game next week.
I need a start.
You're just come back for an injury as well, Kuhn. So I want to keep you the best condition I can. I guess that conversations took place. These things are well managed by Rodgers. He's pretty good manager.
Yeah.
So, but I'd rather a wee bit, as you mentioned, I was a bit taken. I wasn't going to mention it until you mentioned it. I was a bit taken aback with how he was looking. You know what I mean?
I like it. I
know,
want guys to be pissed off if they're the one to win start. I don't think it's a big drama, by the way. I think this is what you call the competitive spirit between guys that all know their shit hot at football. And I don't think they're the number one and out the front three. They should be first pick. And I think there's a wee bit of, I always like to make a different sort of analogy. Like, see when they used to, like, I used to watch obviously like Wimbledon and that. See Roger Federer would he'd maybe have lost a couple of points in his service game. Then there'd be a long rally, he just hit a fucking unreal shot. And he'd almost like stare over the net at the guy going, you've offended me that you've took points off me this game, right? And it's almost like it's an arrogance, but it's a sporting one, not one that's fucking, he's fucking upset off the field or any big dramas there. I don't think that. I think this is very much about a football side of it. He's going, I'm the fucking man around here. Had you forgotten? You know, it's this fucking jaw coming in and fucking Maida chipping the ball for 20 yards. Watch this. Give me it. I think there's just a bit of that, which I love to see, mate. I absolutely love it because that means there's real confidence in the ranks. I think the way Jota's came in is like he was never away. Albeit, I think you're right to highlight the fitness thing. But fuck me, if this is him shot on fitness, what a player. You know, I think Maida is in the form of his life. I think everyone agrees with that. Nicholas Kuhn's still got more goals and assists combined than Maida by about 5 or 6. And he's put them in the top bins. And you've got Adam Ida. Now, telling the world, I wanted to be the main man all along. And doing it with 2 goals in the Champions League. A goal each in his next 2 games. These guys are all vying for jerseys, Mark, in a really proper competitive spirit. And I want them all to have that arrogance. I want them all to say what Adam Ida did. I'm the main man. That was just the vibe I got from it, but I could be wrong. Right. In the lead up to the game, of course, there had to be a presser from Brendan Rodgers, and that would mean in the aftermath of the window. So why that presser was going to be watched by so many was the closing of the window itself. Mark, you've not had a chance to talk about it. We did a deadline day show with Phil and David and myself, and we sort of, I think, resigned ourselves 45 minutes in that there ain't going to be a striker signing. They ain't going to do it. There was not even that hope. And I think from my point of view on it, that's been a really tough one to swallow. And I think it has been for the manager. And that's why we'll sort of talk about the press conference as well. I'm positive that Kyogo as agitated for a move, probably via his new agent, right? And that was something that needs addressed, and I don't need this shit. And to be honest with you, I'm convinced Rodgers' take on it was, and this is just my theory, of course, but this is what I think. He went, I'll probably be able to flip that money. Very much like Martin O'Neill with Viduka and Sutton. He always talks about that. He goes, well, what I said to him was, if you sell Viduka, give me the full whack and I'll replace him with someone I've got in mind. And it was Chris Sutton. I think he'll do better. And they're going, he scored 30 odd goals, last season. You do better than that. But that was just the way, O'Neill saw it. I expected similar. I expected a real similar vibe that might be upsetting to people because they've all fallen in love with Kyogo, but Rodgers is going, hold my beer. I've got a plan here. I'm willing to let him go. I described it as an aggressive move, Matt. Then, and this is what I think you'll probably agree with and say, that's fucking unacceptable anyway, though, Boycey. And it is. It got to the point on deadline day where it was links with likes of Danny Ings or Iniacho, or there was another one linked as well, the player in Bosnia. I think there was one that went to West Brom for 3.3 million. It got linked as well. But all four of those, you were going, well, I'll take it, right? And then it's the both could go after the window shut. Or happy cup. Well, you wanted to replace your striker. You got one. Are you happy that we got a striker? Well, you're forced to say yes. But really, you're looking at the bigger picture going, I didn't think that was the plan, though. I didn't want to just be glad or relieved, which turns into happiness because it's been done. So for them not even to get that one done, not even like something that you could go, well, I'm reluctantly happy because we had to get a striker in. They didn't even fulfill that bit, let alone the ideal scenario playing out, which I'm convinced, and I stand by it, Brendan thought that, okay, I'll let him go. If he wants to go, he's been going on for months, we all know it. Now I'm going to get my guy in. To not then even get the backup, and nothing in that department, we must be the only Champions League club in the last 24 who sold the first choice striker who's played 7 out of 8 games, I think started 7 out of 7 in the Champions League, sold him and not replaced him, not brought in another striker in that window. I doubt there's any other at the 24 Champions League clubs who've done that. That I found mind-boggling. The KT one, it looks like Arteta's digging his heels on that. And I've theorised that there's a Hun Celtic king there. I don't know if I'm wrong. Do you know that? I really don't. Because he's taking the piss now. He's now started playing him again once he obviously got wind that he was leaving. He was nowhere near it before that. Now suddenly they wouldn't play ball on a player who signed a pre-contract to go early. 9 times out of 10, that's usually not difficult. We've had to go to the backup list on that. We got that done. Okay. The Jota deal, delighted for it. But I think the Jota money that's been spent is your Kyogo money. And Rodgers has been led up a garden path on that. He's just not known it. And it turns out Celtic, and I said this to Phil and David, Celtic weren't going to be comfortable spending 8 million up twice in the same January transfer window. What's your thoughts?
Well, first of all, when Brendan Rodgers, just because you mentioned him first, I think he spelled it himself. He said that he's not happy, but he's not going to moan about it. See, I'm just not going to complain about it now, basically. So he's telling you in a cryptic way that he's not happy, but he's not going to let it ruin his experience at being a Celtic manager. He's not very happy. I don't think the fans are very happy. But I think if he's not kicking the door down, he's part of the problem. I think if you're not demanding these players, you're part of the problem. I think Neil Lennon was happy to be there. I think there's a big, massive part of Brendan Rodgers happy to be here as well. And I think we're seeing that playing out. He's not what he says he's wanting to enjoy himself being here as a Celtic manager, and that's great. I'm loving the football we're watching 9 times out of 10, and I'm loving the fact that he's got a dominance over Scottish football that nobody can match. We all love that. Everyone is love that. But I think he can play a bigger part to Celtic's recruitment than what we're seeing so far. And I'll get into that in a wee second. I think you touched on it. I mean, the gross mismanagement and negligence of this football club is beyond even words now. I mean, I dare say they were told that if no summertime, after summertime, that Kyogo wanted to go. If Rodgers is saying months, then it must have been either during or after the last window. Paul Tisdale and the football doctor, I think the football doctor he calls himself, I think he meant fucking foot doctor. I don't know what he's doing, because he's come in Since he's come in, we've brought in Sloop, who was a target last summer. And that was the after Mark Lawwell, but pre Paul Tisdale. So that's no his signing. Kieran Tierney pre-contract as a club signing / Brendan Rodgers. Jota, I think that's a make weight for the Kyogo deal. Again, make weight / fell into your hands. He's in his hands nowhere near it. Quistgarden, he was a target what the last 18 months as a Mark Lawwell project, or Brendan Rodgers. Maximum, it's been an Ange project signing. So his hands are blueprint over nowhere in Celtic's transfer dealings so far. The players that we've seen linked with Celtic seem to be linked with Celtic for sometimes 2 windows in a row. I'm fed up of hearing folks saying Celtic do their business quiet. We drag out the sign. Every player we sign is dragged out weeks and weeks. And there's fans on Twitter, when you go and announce this guy, it drags out. So let's stop pretending we wake up one morning and we'll go at a new striker. That's happened maybe once or twice in the last 30, 40 years. Celtic drag everything out and they do it publicly. They leak stories out to the press. They tell the press, look, we're looking for a striker. Looking at a striker. That's a bit of news for you. That'll shut the fans up. So that idea, I think, needs debunked. I think the gross mismanagement of this club. They typed an email up at a presser at 9:25 announcing Slip as a Celtic player, and then posted it at 1 minute past 11 and forgot to take the timestamp off it at 9:25, insulting the Celtic support, insulting the intelligence. We knew that boy was signed. I get back to Nadir Chifchi training. He signed for Celtic on the Thursday or Friday, and he'd been training for Celtic with Celtic since the Monday. There was folk up at the training ground getting photographs of him with Celtic strip on for days, singing a solo pre-season. He's at Glasgow Airport with a Celtic trackie on, and they announced him 2 days later. And they take the Celtic fans for the biggest idiots in the planet. And I'm fed up. You had a fucking direct debit on Friday, a direct debit this morning, I think, or yesterday, I don't know when it was. And then there's the folk I know who pay their season tickets up month by month. So they've probably had £200-300 at the bank the last week or so. I forgot more than one book for their kids or whatever. And then to wake up Tuesday morning, they basically the same team as we had at the start of the window, minus a star striker. Jota was an excellent bit of business. Please don't mistake me for it. That was a great bit of business and one I wish we had at the start of the season so I could have watched many of this guy play. But he's in now, great. But that wasn't a master stroke. I think that was a make weight. I think that was a convenience signing. One that is brilliant. It looks great on paper. The fans are going to love it. But I think it fell on Celtic's lap. I was livid Monday, and I don't like to say it doesn't make me feel any better that Celtic proved me right. I hope Celtic prove me wrong every fucking day of the week. I don't trust them. I don't trust any of them to do their jobs properly. But we just all knew this is the way it was going to land. Boys say, I don't judge anybody for having hope and anybody for thinking that we're just got to do it this time. That's fine. You love the club. Love makes you blind, makes you stupid sometimes. Don't get any criticism for that whatsoever. I'm just fed up with these folk getting spat in their face at every turn. The fans are getting spat on Monday night when the Celtic fans are just looking online, begging for a link, just begging for something. They're posting reduced kit sales.
Yeah, shut this game.
Insulting the fans, boys. And when you wake up the next morning and there's nothing to celebrate in terms of transfers. In fact, it was quite sombre. The Celtic support were really upset with Monday nights. Maybe you wake up Tuesday and they're trying to sell you training stuff. And you're getting emails reminding you the deadline for the Champions League. The Champions League, they've told us, is a friendly match because they've decided not to ball their arse. We've to back them 100% in the Champions League, pay another £50 for a ticket, and be there and be the 12th man, as they keep on telling us. But they've decided that they've gave up on it. And I tell you something, Danny Ings would have made me want to get in my kitchen and put my head through the microwave and smash it as much as possible until I passed out. But do you know something? See, if they did get Danny Ings,
been better
I could at least went in my bed and said, do you know what? At least they recognised we needed something.
That's what they want. And that, yep.
And sorry, boys, I'm trying
No,
to
you're
go
all right.
on. I apologise. This is like, and sometimes when you're sitting online, you've only got 140 and you moan and you moan, you moan, you moan, you moan. But at the end of the day, it's coming from the right place. I think I'm not the only one that's fed up. You're fed up. We're all fed up. But I'm just finding that I'm just incredulous now. Granted, every window, we just it's a wee glimmer of hope that they're going to change their outlook. I mean, they told us for talking's sake, Darren O'Day is going to be the pathways manager. And by the way, do you know what I found out last night? Just very quick, I'll get back to this. But me and you spoke about it last Thursday. We were saying, oh, was Cummins was that the last throw of the dice to get him to say it? Do you know what I found out last night? See, when West Ham are going to sign him, it's a compensation panel you got to write. Celtic got to go to this panel now and tell him he's a Champions League player and that gives you more money. And I was fucking livid last night when I heard that information. I'm a cynical person, and even I was shocked at that. I was like, oh, you're right, Alec. And I was just like, oh my God. Anyway, I'll get back to that in a minute. But Darren O'Day, this pathway manager, don't blame him one bit whatsoever. But his role was to bring players through. We're seeing guys getting token minutes. We're seeing guys getting brought back to loan to Queen's Park.
Yeah.
Who was only brought back so we could loan out Stephen Welsh and fulfil the Scottish quota.
Should we stay in the transfer bit now? But we'll come to that.
Sorry,
we'll come to that.
Sorry,
just because if we're going to the youth as well, it's going to muddy the.
No, sorry, mate, but I was probably a wider picture that I was trying to. I was just trying to paint out the total mismanagement of this club, boys. If you tap to bottom, and we only see the hard work, quote unquote. Brendan Rodgers says we only see it when we see the players standing there with a shirt and they're getting paid. But you try to tell me, I think for September the 1st last year until January the 1st when the window opened, there would have been a meeting the day after the window closed last summer. Right, that's what we did this summer. This is what we're going to do in preparation for the next window. That would have happened, boys. Correct, yeah? Surely. Most businesses would do it. You would hope so, right? And that time elapsing, and the phone, it was a 5-week January, by the way. They had the 3rd of February. And that time elapsing and the 5-week period in January, boys, we've saw zero fruition. We've saw zero hard work. We've saw none of it on the plate as such.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody within their rights should be really pissed off with Monday. And I think, to be honest with you, I think even the ones who are genuinely positive about Celtic's transfer policy are now beginning to feel absolutely gutted about how the club's kicked them in the face every turn.
No, I agree with you. Couple of things to get through. Let's try and digest that in terms of the transfer side of things. First one I wanted to bring up is Brendan Rodgers, the complicity thing. I look at it like this. Rodgers is a guy right now in a 3-year deal, midway through it, watching the club do the same thing they did first time round, right? They did it after his second season. It was McGinn, it was Piccini, it was Castagna, it was Nkunku, it was loads of players that he didn't want, and he did want that he couldn't get, or Congo wanted that they couldn't bring in, and it was Mulumbu brought in, and it was fucking Dembele sold in the last day. Mulumbu came in that same day for Kilmarnock on a free, and then it was Klimala and Shved in the January. Rodgers is signposting. Listen to what this guy says. I spoke to Tony Haggerty at length about this, and he's constantly on his podcast, and you should watch him on his channel, The Celtic Way, because he is fantastic. And he says, listen to what the man says. The last time around, he was just full throttle, right, telling you, in layman's terms, what he thought. This time around, I think, this is just my take on it, not Tony's, by the way. I was just saying to listen to what he says, but it's what Tony thinks, right? So then I get to my theory on it, and he's saying the same mistakes made by the board, but he's not willing to make the same mistakes he did last time. That's how I see it, because he got hung out to dry regardless last time around. He was still, come February, despite all the facts in front of you, and we all were raging. Remember the banner posted by the same people who called him a rat just a month later, back Brendan or lose him. The same people posted a banner saying you left greatness for mediocrity. Right, what that one out. And I think this time around, Rodgers is going, I am on a hiding to nothing here with the media. But I've got two things. That fucking board, and this is just my theory. They want me to crack. They want me to say something Terminado-esque, Mark, right? And the reason for that is to flex for them, and suddenly they'll let that rumour mill start that a certain Brendan Rodgers is working his ticket again. He's got form for it. Look, and he makes a quip. If he says the transfer window was a joke, this is not how top clubs operate, and I want to operate at a top club. If he said something like that, boom, mate, they're gunning for him, and he knows that from the last time around. Despite the fact he was bang on the money, and we look at all the facts about the windows, you go, of course he was going to leave. It was still him who was the rat. So now he's flagging, if you listen to his presser, he flags the fact he's not going to spit the dummy. However, after praising Daiza Maeda to Larson levels for the header, he says, but have it right, we're still light in that department, and I did want another one in. That's his shot across the bow. That's him getting his point across, but doing it whilst full of praise for the team, whilst saying I'm going to enjoy the job. And then he said again, but please don't get me wrong here, I still think we're light. Or we're too tight, or tighter than I wanted to be. He spoke about the fact I've flagged this. I have, about the striker thing. But everything he did, I thought was a masterclass pre-match, how Rodgers acted, to be honest with you. I don't see him as complicit in it. I see him being in the same movie, and he is on a mission to rectify the wounds with the fans from the time before. See to win trophies, and for his own personal legacy, make a dent in the Champions League. He's now seeing, Mark, that the Champions League is of no interest to Celtic other than qualifying and banking the money, right? But what he's not going to do is kick up a fuck about issues that Celtic will do time and time again. However, what he can do is say, well, I told you I was here for 3 years unless I'm sacked. I stayed for 3. You walk away after 3 years, I never kicked up with us, so you can't accuse me of working my ticket. There's your evidence, though. You tell me who's changed, because I'm proved. I came back, was a better version of myself, because you hated the fact I was mouthy with the media. They didn't change, though. They did the exact same things they did first spell. So he's exposing them in a way by doing that. When it comes to the Tisdale thing that you refer to, Tisdale is clearly bringing in, going to be identifying players, Mark, the same way as the 4 I listed there that Congleton identified. And they're getting told, no. They're saying that they're looking within parameters, I would imagine. Tisdale, alongside Brendan, and maybe a couple other scouts, thinking, yeah, that's our bracket, 7 to 10 million. There's 1, 2, 3. And the board are going, no. And what we're seeing now is rather than Rodgers, like I think Rodgers Light, Brendan Light, as we called him, did in the first window, he let them just sit off, right, just use the 9 players you've got then. And he's like, fuck doing that again. So it's now nothing. It's your guy, it's the guys we want are fuck all. And I think the Schlupp one's a contact. I think it's a Brendan contact, and because it's only 4 or 5 months, that's why they've done it. The Jota one, you're absolutely right. That's not a Tisdale production. So what is Tisdale doing? I find it hard to believe nothing, Mark. That's just not how football works. But what he's clearly doing is getting pushback. And you listen to that Lee Congleton's words after he left, and people think it's because I'm saying he did a good job. It's nothing to do with that. But he said, Lowell's a good guy, but he's an accountant. The players we suggested, and he listed them off, one's now at Chelsea, one went to Villa, one went here, and they were all achievable at the time, right? All of them were achievable for the clubs they were at the time. He says, but the players Celtic did bring on, I wanted nothing to do with. And I wonder if you're seeing that movie play out maybe the same as well. When it comes to the fans and the money, I think you're on the ball with that massively. Celtic's ticket prices went up to £46 for the Champions League playoff stage. Celtic's transfer expenditure will be net profit again in the is again profit in the January window. So they don't spend money for the Champions League, but the term I always use is they don't treat the Champions League with the respect it deserves. They don't treat qualifying for it with the respect it deserves. They don't qualify. They don't treat it with the respect it deserves to be automatic qualifiers for the group. You make the playoffs, they still don't treat it with the respect it deserves. In fact, they weaken your hand. Because Jota, when he becomes available as a deal, you can get done. That gets done any window, any time, regardless. But to sell the guy who started 7 Champions League games out of 8, 7 out of 7, when he was there, you let him go and don't replace. Well, let the Champions League eat you up and spit you out. But if that's the case, and there's no respect for it, why'd you put the respect onus onto supporters like yourself to invest more, invest premium prices in this, get behind the team? listen to the hype, we're at the big table, all that, when really you're treating these next 2 games, as you said, as a friendly. We'll make them friendly ticket prices, mirror what you're doing. But instead, they let themselves just take a wee blindside to the Champions League, turn a blind eye to the respect it deserves, the big table, but want you to be front, left, centre, laser focused and spend more and more on getting to be there, yet they refuse to spend anything extra, let alone the deficit in a window. They want to make profit every window. They want to weaken your first team squad when they're in the latter stages of that competition. What do you say to sort of my responses to your 3 points?
Well, on the Brendan Rodgers one, it's a fair retort to it. You know what I mean? It is only fair that there's an alternative view to it. I do believe that, as much as I actually agree with your points, you know what I mean? I do think he's sitting there and he's saying, look, you're not going to push me out of this job. I'm not going to start giving the press things to talk about. But the underlying message is he's not happy with what's going on. But at the end of the day, my point is he's accepting it, which means I think sometimes when you accept things like that, boys, you're complicit. You know what I mean? It's just my opinion on it. And I do think, for me, he's a powerful man at Celtic, but I think the most powerful man is Lawwell, which brings us on to the mentions of the board and Tisdale. 100%. I don't doubt that Tisdale, and he's not sitting about playing the PlayStation, right? Fair dues, but the board's, I'm not going to argue with you. The board is to blame for almost every issue that I've got with this club. Whether that's shirt sales, whether that's the TV deals, whether that's players on the park, the club, I think, is to blame for almost every single thing that goes wrong. I think that the success of this club in the last 20 years has been in spite of the board's meddling, not because of the board's meddling, and that's at every level. So I agree with you there. The board, I do think, if Tilsdale's a stronger person within the parameters he's been given, I think more happens, boys. I really do. I think.
Are we seeing, Mark, the thing we speculated on when Rodgers was appointed, that this is a Dermot Desmond appointment? This is a stepping in episode where Ange fucked him right off, by the way, with that departing to Spurs thing. They've got wind of it early, and he's went, I'm getting elite to replace him, and I'm going to fucking show him up by bringing him to the cup final thing. And we speculated, is that what the board would have wanted? Is that what Lawwell wanted? Lawwell, who's back in situ, non-exec face? Is that what they wanted, really? And are we seeing right now them absolutely yet again so far apart, but almost the bait being thrown by the board? Because that's how it feels right now. It feels like there was bait there for Brendan to bite on Tuesday night. And I thought, as I say, I generally thought he delivered a masterclass on how to get your point across, show that I'm on side with you, by the way, but I ain't going to fucking give them what they want, because I know what they want in the one-liner. They want something that they can all use as working his ticket, we knew it for months, blah, blah, blah. I feel like they're at loggerheads all over again, the board and Rodgers. And I dare say behind the scenes, it's probably, my guess is, I don't think it's as calm as what maybe he's appearing on screen, mate. I would imagine it's far more aggro. I just think you've got a board there who don't like the guy in charge. And there's a guy in charge who is calling their bluff left, right, and centre because he's doing better than what you're meant to do as Celtic manager. That's the truth. He's exposing them by making 24s, mate.
Well, I think if you've got a board to £100 million in the bank, winning trebles and winning doubles, and you're scared to go to an AGM meeting, it says it all. You know what I mean? That should be the most relaxed AGM meeting in world football, probably in business. You know what I mean? It's such a sound, and they still manage to fuck it up at every turn. And anybody watching this would be like, how can I see that fan say that he's a fucking up? Look at the league table and all that. It's so much more than that, boys. I think success sometimes, beating Dundee 6-0 last night, I don't think it pictures or it mimics what's going on after the park. I think it's in spite of what's going on after the park. I seen a picture the other day there in an airport. I'm very dubious about whether Lawwell and Rodgers were going down to London, but I did actually see that they were away to a charity dinner for Rod Stewart in London.
Yeah, I think Rodgers definitely it was what Rodgers was ready to lay down anyway.
Yeah, I don't think Brendan Rodgers. I think a manager does pick the phone up now and again to a player. the days of Jock Stein flying out to Spain to talk to a player, they died with Jock Stein, I'm afraid to say. A manager will pick the phone up and speak to a new signing, and now and again we'll meet a new captain and things like that. But managers are more and more hands off nowadays with things like that. You know what I mean? They've got accountants and scouting departments to deal with that for them, boys. Right. So, but for the visuals, for the actual visuals of your chief executive, your chairman, and your manager go down to London on transfer deadline day, and for it to be a charity dinner, boys, that just smacks of just the optics of that are just mind-bogglingly bad PR. And I don't even think that they even thought, they even considered how bad that looked. You know what I mean? And there was Twitter was all like, oh, you want to go to London unless you're going to be bringing back Kieran Tierney. Maybe he's bringing back that boy for West Ham. Maybe they're doing something exciting that we don't know about, because Celtic pull these mans out the hat. These quiet transfers that take 3 weeks to happen. The board are complicit in every single thing that's bad about this club, boys. For the catering that we're constantly telling them in these subways is terrible, to the fact you can't get hot water in the toilets, to the fact you can't lock a cubicle door, to the fact that the paint's falling off the walls in most of the stadium. They're just complicit to everything that's gone wrong, boys. That announcement at 1 minute past 11. I went to my bed about 20 past 10 when she came in for work, right? So, right, anyway, but folk must have been going at 11 o'clock. God, we've missed the deadline. What's happening here? They wrote that message at 25 past 9. They forgot to edit it. And by the way, see if you get back in now, they've changed the timestamp to 10:59. Just to double insult you, you know what I mean? Like, the internet is full of folk that will screenshot. You know what I mean?
We spoke about that on the night of the deadline, because it got announced right at towards the end of the show with me, David, and Phil, and I spoke about it. I didn't realise about the timestamp thing, so thanks for sharing that, because I didn't know that. I don't doubt it, by the way, in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I said, I went, do you know that? I said now, I went, there has to become a point in you where you went, you're doing it for dramatic effect. You're doing it because actually that's when you got your deals done, which I think was the case with Cameron Carter-Vickers, for example. Fannied about that long. I think Giakoumakis, they fannied about over a minimum fee release clause they had to meet, which was 2.8 million, remember, for the top scorer in Holland. What about 2.5? All this shit. So I do think sometimes it got to there, but they'd seen the excitement it generated, right? They seen, fucking hell, put it out at that time, even though they're actually doing this. Like, we're wiping our foreheads, so it was, you know, the sweat off them. Then it turned into, oh, right, well, if that captivates the audience, let's make that the norm. But you're absolutely right. I said it on the deadline night on Monday. I said, no one thinks that signing just went through.
No.
Wow.
Brilliant.
So
everyone goes in this.
Brilliant. Yeah, you could see it. Brilliant.
And then look, if you searched it again, new 10:59.
See that is a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face. And the thing is with the actually putting out at 10:59, I said to the boys, what is it they still think it's achieving?
They're just on it.
That they've been working till the end. Is that how thick they think you are? That we've had to work right till the 11 o'clock to get this over the line for you?
It's like they're imagining that we're sitting going, oh, they worked so hard to get that over the line.
That's what I'm getting at.
You're actually thinking to yourself, I think the teams that are getting things done at the last minute, 2 reasons. 1, they fail to prepare for it, or 2, they're reactive rather than proactive. That's not a good thing in football. Fans don't like to see panic. So if you're panicking, if you're getting into the last couple of hours of the window, 9 times out of 10 you're being reactive or you're panicking, boys. So let's be honest, right? That, and the medical was booked at 5 o'clock. So we all knew he signed. When Romano announced it, boys.
Yeah.
You know he's signed, right? And he was still getting into squads for that team, so he couldn't have been injured. So you knew he was actually still alive, this guy. And it's to give the impression that they're all sitting, like you see on TV with the Domino's pizzas, when a desk try to negotiate deals like Wall Street. And when the fact of the matter is, that was probably going to be all we're going to do that night. I did read that boy for Bratislava's dad said that Celtic, a team did put a bid in for the boy, but it was 1.5 million less than they wanted to accept. Yep. I'm going to guess that team is Celtic. Let's be brutally honest.
Yeah, definitely.
And so at least there was some effort. But as we go back to the Danny Ings thing, right? Like seeing if they got a sign like that would have made us so angry. You could have at least went your bed and went like that. At
No,
least
totally.
they recognised that something had to be done. No, listen, see when you actually
They get actually. Do you know what they do though? It's not like that though. To be honest with you, what they actually do is force that many fans. They condition the fans that much, Mark, that they actually go, "Thank you, you got a sign." Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's genius what they do, mate. So they'll go, "Are you glad we signed the player or not?" And then on Twitter they'll go, "So you glad you signed the striker? You're not glad?" And you go, "Well, you've cornered me now. You're right. I'm glad." See, what's the problem? You go, "Fuck,
But
this is." But you get what? Like that's what they want. It's amazing.
I wonder what did see sometimes you watch these programs and and it's like it'll be someone telling it'll be like something happened just saying back in the day some sort of event that happened and the political parties maneuver it to make the public think this, and you go, they must have been daft back then to fall for that. Did these bigwigs sitting at the up the stairs at Celtic Park, do they believe that we fall for the fact that this stuff's going on? You know what I mean? And as I said, sin a solo with a Celtic tracksuit on in Glasgow Airport, then get announced 2 days later. Boys, did they are we that thick?
Well, here's the other side of it, though. Here's the other side of it. That it's went from that to now going, well, we know they know. And it's, do you know what?
Fuck
They're
them.
just going to keep doing it anyway. And then
it's
trolling. Then it is the trolling element. There is a bit of, we're going to do this. Don't go to bed yet, Celts, and all that being the catchphrase. All this shite. It frustrates the life out of me. And it's no way to prepare is what Celtic are doing. And the other thing I'm going to say as well on the window was, see when you meet all your KPIs in your job, Mark, and you're getting your half-term report, and actually you've done a hell of a lot more, and it's actually banked, i.e. the last 24 playoff money is banked. That's like, or it's in the bank. It's on the check's written anyway. It's guaranteed. Last 24, that exceeds expectations, right? Yeah. So you've exceeded in a financial manner. You've exceeded expectations, and on the park exceeded them, or in your day-to-day role exceeded them. What you do is you reward said person. They are rewarded. What you don't do is weaken their hand, weaken their job role, take their assistant, their office assistant away, take their secretary out of the business. They took that striker and sold him. Now, people keep telling us it's difficult to do business in January. I love the fact Rodgers came out, by the way, as well. Another great example. Can I just put that as that myth that you can't do business in January to bed? I've always, in most of my career, signed very good players. In fact, world-class players I've managed to achieve in January. So can we just, it's not about that. And I think that's genuinely like almost a reply to all the times. He's a Celtic fan too, by the way. He'll know exactly how many times he's read the narrative. It's difficult to do business in January. However, what we wanted to see was Rodgers is delivering, you reward. You get another striker, another winger in, another player that he's identified he wants to strengthen in. You don't go, we're taking one away for the striker role and we might replace him. Actually, if we don't, hey-ho. So how's that a reward? How's that a scheme when you're working for a club and you are punching above your weight? You are exceeding expectations. The board are going against that. They're going the other direction, mate. They're traveling a completely different direction for where the team is and where the manager is. So for your reward is to weaken one department of players, strengthen one, but weaken another, and at the very least, not even replace, let alone strengthen the forward striker. And if I hear one more person saying, do you think signing a striker would get us past Bayern? No one said that. Look at it as any football manager of any team in the world. They lose their first choice striker, they replace their first choice striker. Whether they're playing Barcelona, Bayern, or Bones. It makes no fucking odds, Mark. That's just football logic. That's what you do. It doesn't, and by the way, does it give you a smidgen of a percentage of a better chance? Of course it fucking does. But no one wants to hear that. Because what you've now done is fall into their trap, and even saying that Celtic are there to make up the numbers.
Well, last night we played Dundee. The same argument you could say to the Dundee boss. Why are you playing your strongest team?
Why are we signing players in January, mate? You're not going to get relegated.
Why are you playing your first choice keeper? Because Zingy's going to still be losing 6 goals. That's not the point. You know what I mean? It's sporting. And it's like you mentioned there. I mean, I think it's a good analogy. It'd be like taking away the salesman of the year's Filer facts away from him and said, great job. we're going to make it harder for you. You know what I mean? I don't understand. I'm glad I don't understand it, boys. I think you've got to be a level of just nose blind or whatever to be in the board's level of agreement and that how Celtic should be run. I don't think we're ever going to change it, but it doesn't mean that folk can't sit and moan about it. And I've heard folk saying, I don't want to mention them, but I heard folk saying that there's folk moaning about spending £11 million for Engels. So folk would probably moan if we spent 14 million for Garden. No, they wouldn't. They'd be delighted that Celtic are pushing the boat. I mean, nobody's gone like that. Oh, Engels is playing bad today, £11 million. Nobody's saying that. So I kind of picture a scenario where Celtic fans are going to be going, oh, that's too much. If you're concerned yourself with Celtic spending too much money, you're missing the picture altogether. We're cash rich. See, in relative terms, we're the Saudi team in EPL because to the extent where we've got more money than the rest of the league put together, and that isn't an exaggeration. And that in terms of infrastructure, what we've got to sell, money in the bank, season ticket fan base, we're bigger than them all put together, boys. We really are, and so the level of risk is far less than reward. I mean, you mentioned Jota's back. We flicked for the first goal. That's risk and reward. Risk playing it back. Take 3 men out the equation because they're pressing you. The reward is one of the best goals of the season. So this is the board's chance of playing for the back. Going that 5 million
good work
high
like that.
And boys, it took us what 20 odd years to break the money we spent on Chris Sutton. Edouard, sorry, it took us maybe 18 years, right?
18 years, yep.
I don't want to see another 18 years before we spend more than Engels. And it's got to the stage now where football's evolving that fast that Birmingham City in League One have spent £10 million.
10 million on a player,
right?
Yep. Fact.
And probably paying the guy 30 grand a week as well. Let's be honest here, right?
Here's one for you, Mark. If we'd spent 10 million on a striker in January, right, that would have been less of a hit to our bank balance and our funds and our turnover and all that, right? Our revenue streams and our actual overall cash in the cash in the attic, as it were, because you need to see it, right? That would have been less of a dent than Aberdeen signing an 800 grand Latvia captain who only had 5 months left in his deal. So Aberdeen, who had at that point, I think they were 12 games without a win, have backed their manager just for the rewards of potentially finishing 3rd or 4th in the SPFL with a higher risk purchase than what we were willing to do in the Champions League. Aberdeen went for a higher percentage, aggressive move on their relative funds by signing a guy with only 5 months left of his deal at the price they did than we would if we signed a £10 million striker in January. They took a bigger dent in the balance. That's because their manager wanted him, identified him, 5 months to go in his deal, 800 grand, we'll still pay it because that's the guy that we need.
That's a good point.
That's up to them. And we're not basing everything on Aberdeen. But what I'm trying to show you and highlight to you is some clubs back Celtic. And I always go back to this as well. We were more angry and more frustrated and more laser focused on the tightness of Celtic at a time where they had Pierre Van Hooijdonk, George Cadetti, Paolo Di Canio, Andreas Tom, all in the same team, right? Those 4 players, in terms of their wages, what they'd been eating up, in terms of their transfer fees, what they took out of that tiny balance, that was far more, tenfold more aggressive buying 2.1 million on Andy Tom when we would have had, 5 million in the bank, 6 million in the bank. That feels like signing as a £40 million player now.
Well, just for to highlight that, we signed a 7-year contract with Umbro, and I think the deal was £9 million, boys. We've just signed a £30 million deal with Adidas.
For 5 years.
And with Adidas, that's not capped at 30 million, by the way. That's what people don't realise. Aye, so Adidas is like, it's a bit like a franchise as such, where you can earn more, boys, as well. You know what I mean? It's like, you notice how they're so aggressive with Adidas kits at Celtic, and it's like every 5 minutes.
There's a reason behind it.
Yeah, because Celtic are more than happy for them to plough it all in, but Celtic can make more money than that. It's not just a contract. You're getting 30 million. Whether you sell them or not, that's yours. Celtic can make more than that, and Celtic are breaking records with them all the time. But of course, and you mentioned Aberdeen, of course, like 800 grand. To them, that's probably 10 million. I mean, let's be honest.
No,
Like,
it's more than that. It's
relative
more.
terms, aye.
It's more.
Aye.
That would have eaten into far more of what they've got sitting in cash reserves than what 10 million would eat into 120.
Yeah. Well, we'll put it this way. It's probably, I think the highest
Mental.
ever player was £1 million. That was about 30 years ago. So it's probably one of the top ever incomings. In the same scale, Celtic would be 10, 11 million. But even at that, you know, I mean, if you get the monetary value, they've backed the manager. And we mentioned a minute ago about the Champions League that, and you know, my problems with the Champions League. Well, we're not going to get into it, right? But we've seen back in the day where we're trying to qualify and we're playing Beaton at centre back and he's playing at right
Year
back.
after year, by the way.
And then we all say to ourselves, but if we get into the next round, we might get that striker. Then that didn't happen. And then you get the occasions where you don't qualify and you go, the narrative is we never got that striker because we couldn't afford them because we didn't get Champions League money. But then when we get there, we still don't get them. But then when we get there, and then we go further again, we Celtic have made something like, make the rank here, £9.5 million on their points tallies this year. See the points tally?
Yep. Yeah.
So,
No, it's €3 million per win, or €3.2 million per win. So it's 3 wins. There's 9.6.
9 million.
And then 3 draws will be roughly about £1 million each. So you look at €12 million, €12.5 million. Right, so about £10 million.
£10 million.
Mark, in total, they've made $46.7 million for the Champions League this season.
Is that? I think that's before ticket sales. Am I right?
I think it's all in. But they're about $47 million.
Well, it's some chunk of change.
Let's split hairs over it. I mean, do you know what I mean?
Well,
it's crazy money.
When you think, if that's your Champions League, right, that's roughly about 55% of Celtic's full annual income last year. Merged into a 10 game side piece of the season before you sell a season ticket, before you sell a strip, before you get League Cup money, Scottish Cup money, Premier League Championship money. And where's it? I think this is my opinion on it. I think they both think the rewards for the fans is, their reward is that they get to go and watch it. They get to hear that song. That's a reward. Anything that happens on top of that, they bought you this nice shiny toy, but you're not going to get the batteries. You can look at it all you want, but you're not going to get to play with it. You know what I mean? And I do think that they think that's your reward. Don't be asking for anything else. And I do think if we go, by the way, I think we had got a Bruges, a winnable tie, I don't think we would have bought a striker either. I really don't.
Well, hypotheticals are one thing, but the facts of the matter remain that was a window of underwhelmment. Mark, a couple of wee ones before we go. What are your thoughts on the Schlupp signing? See, for me, I think it's a good move. I'll be honest. I just think this is how unfair it could be, even on a certain player. He comes in, he's not getting the fairest crack of the way. I hope he does. He deserves that. Any player who joins us does. But because he's part of this window of underwhelmment, he was the only deadline day signing. We didn't get the striker in. And of course, then everyone will just go optics. 32 years old, 4-month loan. Hasn't played a lot for Crystal Palace this year. That prejudgment, I think, is more than calmed if the window goes differently. And he's part of, do you know what I mean, a successful transfer window. Whereas when he's in isolation on deadline day, I feel that that's a bad start to get off to in the eyes of the fans. And that's not on the player. I think we need a bit of physicality in the team. I think the team does need a bit of experience. We never have over 30s in it. You look at the goalkeeper role and how much we've enthused about, actually in recent times, having someone, a veteran in that role, can be a good thing. There's nothing wrong with implementing that in your back line as well. And I think physically, see when these guys come for the Premier League, mate, 32 is your old 28, 29. Maybe not in terms of the peak of their ability, but fitness-wise, I mean physique-wise, 32 now is, they're not on the wane physically at this point in time yet, right? So he will be someone who comes in with a Premier League profile physically, which I think the team's been lacking. In terms of ability, my eyes are open. I'm here to see what he can do. And I think what the plan will be is there's a contingency for if Greg Taylor doesn't re-sign KT, and then you've got Schlupp, and he can play a number of positions, and you've got that'll be a backup option for left back, and potentially at times if needed in other roles. I'm not against the signing, Mark. I feel it's a signing though that's because of how it's been made, even that delay in the timing of it. I just think it's unfair to start off on that fucking foot for the player. I think it's one that makes total sense. One thing though I will just clarify, which I didn't know, which I was quite amazed at when Brendan said it. He never actually has worked with him before.
No,
he left Leicester when Brendan went in. I think everyone was under the assumption that he'd worked with him before, but he's been in the Premier League the last 11, 12 years. He's got a 4-month loan, but his contract's up at Palace. So he's here to earn his deal. So that gives him that hunger. I always get worried when it was a Jojo Kenny or John Joe Kenny. And he comes in for 6 months loan, no option to buy, still on a contract at Everton. Fucking nobody cares. He doesn't care. Nobody cares. I think when this guy's trying to earn the deal, you'll get the best out of him there as well. What are your thoughts on the sign? Is there any optimism towards it for yourself? Or are you clouded? Are you almost hampered by everything else that's going on? Or you just think it's, I don't know.
No, well, I think you've got a point in terms of how the guy has maybe come in and I missed that he didn't cause. It's like being at a party and the guy who's a prick has been asked to leave and he's dug shit in the carpet and you've come in after him and you've stood in the shite and trampled on the nice rug. It's not his fault, you know what I mean?
No.
It's not his fault at all. And I think he's got a wee bit of beef he has to lose, if I'm going to be honest with you. He's a bit heavy for me, not against his physicality. I think we need physicality. Even in forget Europe, I think we get bullied sometimes in Scotland, believe it or not. That Motherwell striker who looks like a Norwegian Viking or whatever it is, he was all errors last week, so he was a big boy, and we need a wee bit more strength in there. And he probably doesn't get pushed off the ball as easy as what Carter Vickers did, believe it or not. But see, in terms of the player himself, let him come in, let him prove people right, let him prove people wrong. I dare say he's going to play a role for Celtic. If he's back up to Greg Taylor, is it a big issue? Probably no. If he's got to step in and just cover minutes, it's not a big issue either, boys. If he's come in to win a contract,
that's what I think,
and he's won it, he's got to displace Greg Taylor first, in my opinion. Because I think, and if he's happy to be back up, fine. I think if you get a player, this is the thing, like I always go back to Nelson, blah blah blah. But I think if you get a player who's no content to be on the bench, but doesn't complain about it, but then comes in every 15 games and plays like he's played the last 15 games, that's good squad. That's a good squad depth. If he's able to do that, then I think he's going to be a great backup for Tierney.
He played centre middle lot for Crystal Palace as well.
Well, I was talking to a boy last night at the football. Wee Lewis sits next to me. He says he watches EPL all the time. I don't doubt him. He's a young boy, probably all day. But he said he's never really saw him playing left back before. He said, "I've watched him play, Mark. He's a left winger and all the rest of it." He says, "I don't."
Rodgers definitely said he was into to support Greg.
I know.
So he's talking about left back, but I hear what you're saying. Aye,
his profile
he's not actually played as much.
Left back, but to be honest with you, as Greg Taylor left back, he's maybe and I don't know what he is now. He's playing sometimes in the middle of the park.
He's fucking Deco, mate. He's Deco.
We've not got left backs in there and right backs in there. I don't think we with the left backs. I told you this before. Nobody could tell me that Tosh McKinley was an out and out left back. I don't think he was. He was a guy about my height. You know what I mean? He was up down the park of the fuck, crossing the ball in. He wasn't an out and out left back, and you get back 30 years now. Yeah. So I don't think it's a new thing for Celtic. We don't really have.
I think the experience of a guy.
Was that?
I think the experience of a guy with over 250, 300 EPL appearances in the tank. That's all he's known, mate, since he was 21. EPL levels.
I think the profile of the signing, the timing of the signing, the age of the guy, probably did add to the underwhelming nature of these signings.
Because he's in isolation.
And I think the club made it worse by unveiling him.
I agree.
And I think, this is how quick this could have turned. See if we had got a striker into the place, Kyogo, and we had backed up with the Tierney deal and then got Schlupp, that would look like an outstanding window.
That was kind of my point.
£25 million players. We've got an EPL left back and we've got a striker coming in to excite us.
This was my point. Yep.
You see how easy that? I mean,
You've
see the
just
next
nailed
day
it.
you can sell your strips around the place. You can increase the price, never mind decrease
Yeah.
it.
I
And there's
think what I hope for him, right? See the way you said the Monday you were raging. Then it got to the game Wednesday and it gave everyone, and including yourself, a chance to take a step back and go, right, maybe look at it with a better perception, or not a better, but just a wee calmer perception, if you like. I'm hoping that that attitude is applied to Jeffrey Schlupp as well. Once we get off the heat of, that was it on transfer deadline day, a guy who was on the transfer